That team is a 0-win team. Zero. Because he creates so much for them. And at some point, Jesus, man, give this guy something. Like, or not. I'm okay not giving him anything.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Beard Zone Sports Talk. My name is David. I got Carlos with me tonight, and tonight we will be going through 17 through 32, the second half of the teams that we didn't cover in our draft recap volume 1 that came out last Friday. So before you get into this, if you want to see us we didn't necessarily give out grades, but we talked about how we felt with 1 through 16 that the teams did in their draft. Go ahead, check that video out. The link should be down there in the description. But tonight we're going to be going through the second half of the teams here. These are the teams that a lot of them had success last year. A lot of these franchises we see in this second half of these, in these draft rounds, just simply because the franchises are just successful. You always have them. But Carlos, I'm excited to get into it. I know that you're excited to get into it. Before we get into all of it, though, do us a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and we appreciate you guys every Friday. And it is now our favorite time of year starting next week, too. Our way too early predictions. We're going to be laying it out. And that means that we are in the final stretch to get into the NFL season. So hang on. Unlike GTA 6, it's not going to be delayed. So I'm excited. But let's go ahead and dive right into it. The Cincinnati Bengals, they pick number 17. Cincinnati, for the love of everything, they could not win a game last year simply because they just continue to get outscored. And so I know a lot of people were giving them crap because they didn't go offensive line, Carlos. And I understand you want to protect Joe, and that is something that he continues to struggle with. He continues to find himself under pressure and under duress. But my God, man, the guy still puts up 40-something points a game, and he's losing the games. So I think that they did very good at addressing the defensive side of the ball. They went out and got Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M with that 17th overall pick, and then they added a little bit more depth in their linebacker room because that linebacker room is now pretty thin with Henderson and everything else like that. So, but how do you think Cincinnati did?
I think they did all right. The Shamar Stewart pick is going to be one that's interesting because we talked about there's not a lot of stats behind his production, so there's a lot of pressures. But those pressures didn't turn into any sacks. 4.5 sacks over his collegiate career. Not impressive, but the pressures are where he has 39 just alone last year. But do we know if those pressures, what was the result of those plays? So that's a little tough for me on that one. But the guy's a freak. So we're going to see maybe playing with Hickerson. I'm going to get it out. Helps him out some. And we don't know what happens with Hubbard. But like you said, they outscore everybody. That's not their problem. They just got to hold somebody under 30, and they're good to go. And their second pick wasn't bad either with Demetrius Knight Jr. out of South Carolina. It'll give them a guy who can kind of cover a little bit, give them some – they need there's not much that they have set in place on that defense that, man, they need help big time.
Yeah.
And then they add Barrett from Clemson also with Barrett Carter, another guy. He's come from Clemson, so he's been coached very well from Dabo Sweeney. So we're gonna see how he pans out as well. It's just they need all the help they can get on defense, man. Anything. Yeah.
The only knock is because we did talk about Stewart and his production. I mean, it's so weird that he had so many pressures, but yet only 4.5 sacks. It's just it's like, is that going to translate well to the NFL? We don't know, right? What was the disruptiveness of those plays? My biggest surprise with this is that they didn't go secondary. I thought that there was a lot of corners in this draft. There was a lot of Will Johnson was still there, but Will Johnson ended up falling to day 2, which I think surprised everybody. Definitely his injuries scared a lot of the GMs, it seems like. But there was still a lot of good secondary defensive players on the board here, and they ended up going with the edge guy. We'll see how it pans out in the long run, but like you said, just hold anybody underneath 30, and it seems like that they're going to do pretty good. And I think that a lot of people forget they went big in the free agency with their offensive line.
Yeah.
So it's not. I don't think that I think that they addressed it big time in the free agency, and then they were able to draft on the defensive side of the ball. So, and this was a defensive heavy draft class. Edge corners. So, but we will see how it goes out. But I'm rooting for Joe Burrow. I don't know if anybody is rooting against.
It's because he beat Patrick Mahomes. That's it. Everybody wants to see because he beat Patrick. Yeah, that's. But you feel bad for the guy. He has an MVP season last season, and
literally
nothing to really.
If they were above 500, he's MVP.
Oh yeah.
I mean, no questions about it.
Yeah,
but that's just not how the cookie crumbled for the Bengals last year. But let's move on to the Seattle Seahawks. They were another one of those teams that drafted, I think, very safe. I think that they went super smart with all of their picks. They addressed offensive line, which was their biggest need, definitely this NFL or this offseason. And they went ahead and they got Gray Zabel, the guard from North Dakota State. We talked about him in our offensive line episode where we were kind of breaking it down. You can't go wrong with these North Dakota State guys. These big country boys. I mean, they're just going to eat up a lot of weight there, and especially in that guard and center position. So, but they stuck with the safe picks. I feel like throughout the draft. They're building something there in Seattle. I do believe that they are building something there, and I'm excited to see what Seattle does.
I love their draft. I thought they drafted very well. They get Zabel, the best interior offensive lineman in the draft, who's going to play day one. They get Imawari, the big safety that's going to come up in the box like Jamal Adams used to do, and that Legion of Boom days. This guy's going to come up. And, I mean, he's the size of a linebacker. Freaking running a 4.4 in the back end as a safety is ridiculous. Elijah Arroyo, I love it. If the guy stays healthy, it's a steal in the third-round pick. He will be up there. He's a combination of Tyler Warren and Loveland. I think they get an upgrade there from Noah Fant. I like it. The other way to even Milroe. I mean, what can it hurt? You have Sam Darnold. He's going to sit. He's going to be able to learn. They get Torrey Horton, the Colorado State wide receiver, who was amazing at Colorado State. To put next to JSN now.
And he was so in the shadow of Travis Hunter. We were talking about that. This kid, though, he could have been the number one guy in Colorado, I think, just fine. I think he can handle it just fine. His production was unreal in Colorado. Yeah. They did great. They actually got that safety, Imawari, dude. I wanted him in Tampa. I really would have loved to see him because we lost Jordan Whitehead over the offseason. He got injured last year, so it didn't really work out. We were excited to get him back, but it just didn't pan out. I thought him and Winfield, man, in that secondary would have been awesome. Yeah, this was a really good draft.
They even get Damian Martinez in the 7th round, who is a bruising back out of Miami. This guy, the one problem they have with Kenneth Walker, he gets hurt. Yeah, and the backup was it Sherman? I can never say his last name. It's not really that hard to even say. I think they're going to love Damian Martinez. This is another. Contact doesn't matter. He's looking for it. He gets yards. He's going to get those tough 2 yards that you need on third down, and he catches the ball decent. I think for a 7th-round pick. I think it's another good pick for them. They did a good job drafting this year for sure.
Yeah, like I said, I think that they played it safe because they got guys who were gonna translate well to the NFL. They didn't reach for anybody. They played it very smart. And like I said, I really do think that they're building something there in Seattle. So I'm excited to see what they continue to build. Let's move on to my team.
Boy.
The Bucs. Not gonna lie, man. I was a little bit torn with this first overall pick. Actually, I wasn't torn at all. If you watched our draft special, I was pissed. I was not happy that we went Abuka, wide receiver from Ohio State. I'm still up and down with it. But here's the thing: Abuka is gonna be someone who can be consistent for us, and I think he adds depth where it was needed. Everyone was saying, well, the injuries, Mike Evans on, his last couple of years, we don't know. It's also a safety blanket for any sort of, um, kind of backtracking from McMillan, who had a great rookie year last year. But the thing about it is, my argument with that is that we were still a very productive offense, even
Yeah.
without those guys, and so it's like our defense was our secondary was in need of so much help, and we had so many guys there on the board. But Jason Light, man, he has a program, he has a system, and he doesn't waver from it. And in the long run, it works out. A lot of the time, it does work out. They go out and get Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame, which I do like in the second, on day two, and then they continue to kind of go against or kind of help secure that secondary with Jacob Parrish on in round three, and then get a couple of edge guys before wrapping it up with Tez Johnson, the guy from Oregon, who I love. I think he's going to be a great special teamer for us, which is something that we also needed to address. But Emeka Abuka, wide receiver, was the talk for the Bucks draft.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it was an area concern or like need for them,
Yeah.
but there must be something we're not hearing to go get him. I think he's a fantastic player. I think he's going to be good.
I do too.
If all the receivers are healthy, their 1, 2, 3 is going to be. I mean, you got Evans, Godwin, and now Emeka. It's going to be really good. And then you have McMillan also at the 4. So, and he had a really good year last year, filling in when Godwin went down. So you have a very crowded wide receiver room. So there must be, maybe they're prepping for injury. I don't know. I think there was needs on defense that they could have done. I like Benjamin Morrison. There are some questions more of his speed. Is he going to be able to handle if the Bucks aren't able to put pressure, he's going to be able to handle a wide receiver for 3 to 5 seconds. So
Yeah.
I actually thought the Jacob Parrish draft pick was better. He was a guy projected probably more second round. They get a really good value pick out of him out of Kansas State. Not a fan of the Elijah Roberts pick, the SMU guy. He was a Miami transfer. Not a big stats guy. I don't get it. Maybe there wasn't anybody better, but I don't like it at the edge, and I don't think he's going to translate into that 3-4 defenses more. He might be more of a 3-4 guy that can play that 5 technique.
Yeah.
And then I like Tez. Here's the Bucks got the heaviest player, the biggest player, and the smallest player. I don't know how Tez is good at. Tez is definitely just a punt returner, but a guy that's, what is he, 150? Like 154? Something stupid. I don't see him holding up. And then you get the big guy out of Florida with Harvey there. But I mean, you get, what do they get? They get Tez at the 7th round late. It can't hurt. But, punt returners are, if you get a good one, I mean, look what Devin Hester did in his career. Punt returner is a good.
Yeah.
It's a good,
absolutely. I love that Harvey pickup, man, from the guy from Florida. Him and Vita Vea in the middle is going to be awesome. Like, definitely more of like a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 kind of a plug guy, to kind of go with Vita Vea, but I'm okay with it. I mean, that's
hurt. Like,
it's over 800 pounds that you're going to try and defend right there. So, and Harvey's got to slim up though in the NFL. Like, right? Like, he's not going to stay at that 4-something weight.
I just don't know. Head. Like, Vea's big, but Vea is strong. He's the Samoans are there. It's hard to move him. But I don't think Harvey is. I never saw him at Florida. I saw him in the Miami game 1-on-1, and they just, hey, you want to go here? I'm just going to turn you a little bit, and that's it. We're gonna run around you. So I don't know if he's that immovable object like Vea is.
Yeah.
So, but
I
you're
don't think so either.
400 pounds, like you're still got to be hard to move. So, but we are
Yeah.
talking NFL linemen now, so we'll find out. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see both of those
It
guys.
will be interesting to see how it goes. I'm excited to see the first pairing of Vita Vea and Harvey right there next to each other. So, and also, with the edge picks for the Bucks, I'm going to stay on the Bucks a little bit more. Hey, I'm a fan. This is our podcast. We can do it. I think Chris Braswell and Yaya. I think Jason Light maybe has a little bit more belief than some of the fans do in those guys. So I'm really going to be watching them this year in their production because Chris Braswell, man, he was almost non-existent last year. I think he did have some injuries, but Yaya has been starting to kind of get a little bit more productive. So, but I am excited to see it overall. In Jason Light, we trust. That is our slogan here in Tampa. So, but let's move on to the Denver Broncos. And we were talking on the draft special, and we were like, all right, well, who do these guys get? They got secondary. They got this. They did really well this offseason to get, some defensive players. They'll probably go offense right here, right? Nope. They were like, go ahead and let's bring on Shadad Barron, the guy from Texas, one of the better defensive backs coming into this year's draft class to pair along with with Surtain. Let me tell you something, man. This secondary is going to be unbelievably difficult to go up against. And then I love what they did. And they got RJ Harvey from UCF in the second round. And they needed a running back. And I think that is the perfect fit for him. So look out for the Denver Broncos, man. They were a headache last year for a lot of teams. They're continuing to grow something there.
Yeah, Jahad Barron is he's good.
Yeah.
And I don't know why the Bucks didn't pick him.
I don't know either.
This guy's a stud, and you're going to pair it on that defensive secondary is ridiculous. I mean, you're going to have Surtain, you got Barron, you got Mufunga, who is there now, and you got Brandon Jones, that was an ex-Dolphin on there, who is good as well.
Yes.
That's going to be that defense was already lights out. It sucks that they're losing Greenlaw for a little bit, but I liked it. I like RJ Harvey. He should take some pressure off Bo Nix. The guy's going to be a screen machine. And that seems that's a Sean Payton thing, like what he had with Kamara. So he likes to run the screens, get those outside zone runs where he didn't have that. Pat Bryant out of Illinois, another good receiver. It's not a guy you hear a lot because he's playing for Illinois, but a really good receiver. They did really good. Weirdly, they're the only team I've seen draft a punter. I don't know if I've seen that too much. Must be a really good punter. And I'm going to trust that. I don't care that it's in the 6th round, but drafting a punter, when I saw that, I was like, must be a really good punter.
Yeah, I mean, most likely. I mean, hey, Pat McAfee got drafted, right? So, I mean, he turned out pretty good.
That's true, yeah.
So,
I mean, I saw the guy punt a lot during the Miami game because he's from the Gators. And I didn't think, I mean, I heard that he's a really good punter, but, man, he's still a punter. Like, I don't think you needed to.
Well, it's not like they got him in the 3rd or 4th round. They got him like day 3.
I don't think you need to draft him. I think he could have went as a undrafted free agent.
Yeah, but if you know what, though, we say it all the time. If your guy is there and you can have the opportunity to get him, go ahead and get him. Let's go on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay, so news this week with Pittsburgh, they went ahead and they traded away George Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys. So now DK Metcalf is there. I honestly, who was the other guys in Pittsburgh there? I'm drawing a blank now because I know it was DK and George Pickens, and there was all those memes where it was like those two guys are fighting down the field.
I'm disappointed. I am so disappointed.
I'm wondering now though, like I'm going to be very curious to see if Aaron Rodgers signs like quickly now with them. Or, I wonder if like maybe that was it. Do you think maybe it was an Aaron Rodgers thing?
Maybe Aaron didn't. Maybe that was one thing. I mean, to abruptly trade Pickens is kind of weird. And I mean, there's still some good guys out there in free agency. You got Keenan Allen still out there, was a very reliable guy as well. So there's a couple guys hanging out. But I mean, the other guy's Robert Woods. I mean, he's a veteran. And then Austin, which I don't know about Trayvon or Calvin Austin. He's good, but he's not Pickens. Pickens is actually a really good receiver. It just comes with a lot of attitude.
He does, but I mean, what wide receiver doesn't? But let's talk about their draft. I don't really know how I feel about their draft. I feel like the Derek Harmon, the defensive tackle pick there in the first round, was a little bit of a stretch. I felt like if they were going to go D line, they could have gotten someone else, better at that position. I don't know how I feel about Jack Sawyer, although he was, round 4. They also got Will Howard, day 3. He could pan out. There's a lot of, I feel like that there's just nothing but question marks on this draft class.
Yeah. I mean, I think Sawyer is. I don't know how he. If there's a team that Sawyer should be going to, it's definitely Pittsburgh. Yeah. Like he looks like a Pittsburgh guy, plays like a Pittsburgh guy. His when it comes to his stats, like his running and all that, none of it, you're like, oh wow. So he's just a football player, probably playing in the wrong era, but he's a football player. So
he is.
I like the Caleb Johnson. I think that second, the running back out of Iowa, I like that guy, man. He's going to be a good running back. He's another Pittsburgh guy. I would say one thing: they draft guys that have Pittsburgh written all over them, and he's another tough guy. Runs hard, good speed. I mean, he's out of Iowa. I like the Harmon pick. It's just with Harmon, we didn't get to see a lot. Oregon's never known for their defense, but long arm guy. I think he'll do fine there. And the Will Howard one, I'm not a huge fan. And I said in our one of our episodes, this guy would be a 4th, 5th round pick. And sure enough, he goes in the 4th round. But with Arthur Smith, he could turn into a very functional quarterback. I have to retract a couple things I was very negative about Will Howard, but I did pick where he was going to go. So he's actually a little more athletic. I went back and looked at some of his K-State days. He actually I don't want to say he's Big Ben, but he is Big Ben-ish. Big guy, runs really well. His arm is he has a strong arm. Ben had a strong arm. I think he just needs he just needs 1 year, and let's see what happens. I don't think he's a guy he's going to compete this year, especially unless Rodgers doesn't come in. But it's a good safety blanket. He's a smart guy. I mean, Will Howard's he's got a good IQ, so they might be a really solid pick for them.
It could be. And if he's able to sit behind Aaron Rodgers, I don't think Aaron Rodgers is one of those quarterbacks who is just like, no, screw you, dude. I'm going to just do my own thing. I think that he is willing to teach. I mean, we saw him do that with Jordan Love. It's not like he was completely against Zach Wilson, when he was there with the Jets and kind of took over his job there. So I think that if Aaron Rodgers does sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers, Will Howard is definitely a quarterback that needs to be kind of groomed to get into the NFL readiness. And who knows, maybe Aaron Rodgers, if he does go there, he's there for a year or two, and that's all the time that he needs to just be in that same system. Pittsburgh, man, they stay consistent with the staff. So yeah. I think that's going to be very helpful for Will Howard or any young quarterback going into the NFL. If you have a franchise that is consistent with their staff and always hires kind of like and builds from within, I think that, you can have success there. But we thought, the same thing with Kenny Pickett, and look how that turned out. He did win a Super Bowl. So,
you know what I hate about the NFL at times? Kenny Pickett has a Super Bowl, but Dan Marino does.
Dan Marino doesn't.
Trent Dilfer has a Super Bowl, but Dan Marino doesn't.
Trent Dilfer was a starter.
I know it. Jesus Christ. It's time to drink.
Yeah. Well, as you're taking that drink, let's move on to the Los Angeles Chargers. Last year, Jim Harbaugh came in here. Jim Harbaugh came in here, and he built a Jim Harbaugh team. Hard-nosed, got Joe Alt, stuck with the running game, revitalized J.K. Dobbins' career for the first 13 weeks, and then, J.K. Dobbins returned to his old self. But they're going to continue to build that. And they went out and got Omarion Hampton from North Carolina, probably outside of Genty, second best running back available, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is an absolute stud. And I think he's going to fit very well in this Jim Harbaugh system. They're going to continue to be hard-nosed, run it down your throat kind of a team to help Justin Herbert out because he needs the help, right? Justin Herbert isn't like a Josh Allen. He's a good quarterback, but he's not a guy who can literally will your team to victory. He needs a good supporting cast, and that's what they're trying to give him. They went out and got Trey Harris from Mississippi, wide receiver. I mean, we'll see how it turns out. I don't think he's a horrible receiver by any means. And then they continue to kind of go on defensive, get the defensive line edge and everything. Let's not forget though, this defense last year was really good up until they faced Tampa.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what happened after that, but I like Jim Harbaugh is going to be consistent, man, with everything that he's doing, and he's continuing to build that kind of environment and that franchise there with the Los Angeles Chargers. But I love the Marion Hampton draft.
He's a 3-down back. I know they got Najee, but I mean he's got it all. Speed,
he's a good compliment though.
Yeah,
Najee's a good compliment to him.
Yeah, that's more like it. I think Hampton is the starter. He blocks. I mean, and we see it with every team we talk about. There's always two running backs now, but he can do. There's nothing that Hampton can't do. The guy can do. He catches the ball well, runs. Trey Harris, he's a good receiver. He's 13 all SEC, over 1,000 yards with Mississippi, so not a bad pick. And then they get the counterpart of Harmon on the other side, defensive tackle, gives them a big body guy. Harbaugh does Harbaugh things. He drafts from schools and he gets the best player from that school, but you're talking like a Syracuse, which you don't hear a lot about. The Auburn, we didn't hear a lot about Auburn this year because they weren't a good football team. South Carolina wasn't a real good football team. I mean, they had Emmett Warry, which gets a lot of big, but they get Kyle Kennard out of there. So
yeah,
he's a good evaluator of talent. I'm not going to question Harbaugh's decision on who they draft, but I think his first pick's a home run, man. I still don't understand why the Cowboys didn't pick this guy up, but they couldn't, but I just, it's a good pick.
I mean, the Bucs got Ibuka, so I mean,
yeah, that is true.
You don't know what's going on in these guys' minds, and we said it in the first episode in Volume 1 of the Draft Recap. Check it out last week, Friday. On our
can it be that hard to be an NFL GM? I mean, we look.
Yeah, there's only 32 positions in the entire world. There's 32.
Like, it can't be. I mean, I know it's difficult when we're sitting here as the couch GMs, but I mean, we look at and they pick people and we're like, why would you pick that guy? That guy's horrible, and they turn out to be horrible. I'm like, you could pay me $3 million a year. I'll take a pay cut, $2 million a year, and I'll be the GM of your team. I can do it for $2 million. I could be the Browns GM for $2 million a year. I will save the team some money. I can make those poor decisions just as well as that guy can. So, I don't get it. I don't get it sometimes when
it's it's always easier being on this side though.
It is. 100%.
It's always easier being on this side because then not only that, but now you're taking all the criticism from the fan. Now you're taking the criticism, and now I mean, look, you told me to watch it, so I ended up watching it. I watched Draft Day. There's conflict with the coaches. He has a baby on the way.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird, like a weird love story in the middle of that thing. His dad just died. They wanted to spread his dad's ashes 3 hours before the draft. So you just never know what's going on behind the scenes, right?
And you got an owner bothering you too. So
you got an owner bothering you on, making sure that you get Bo Callahan, but
it's a good job by him not taking Bo Callahan.
Good job by him.
Yeah.
Good job by him. So, but let's go on to the Green Bay Packers. Dude, Green Bay, I have never seen a fan base so excited to get something that they already have on their team. And that is a young, talented wide receiver.
Yeah.
You can't have
enough on, right? 10? That's
like
great.
But I think it was because this team hadn't picked an offensive weapon in like 20 something years. Like I think 2002 was the last time that they took an offensive wide receiver in the first round. It's always been like offensive tackle or defensive guy, Jordan Love out of nowhere, so it was just like, but now they got Matthew Golden, Texas guy, burner, I mean, definitely has, high speed. And I've never seen people so excited, but Green Bay appears to be very excited about this. I'm looking at the rest of their draft. I like Anthony Belton from NC State. I like that offensive tackle. I think that he'll do well. But outside of that, no one really jumps out for me. So I really feel like they try to hit the home run with Matthew Golden, and then just kind of took whoever was available after that.
That is one crowded wide receiver room, all on rookie contracts, which is phenomenal because that collective room that they have is getting paid less than Jalen Waddle. So
I was about to say,
and there's some good players in there. But I think Golden goes into the starting lineup. He's got speed, good route runner. I like the player. He's actually up. I know I probably take heat. He's actually my number one guy at receiver going into this draft. I just don't think Green Bay needed another receiver. They got Watson, Dobbs, Reed. Like, those are three good guys. I know Watson's in, but they have Wicks too. So, but they did. It's a Green Bay Packer, other than taking the wide receiver number one. They get an offensive lineman, Belton. Good guy. It's a good chance that he's definitely going to play. And then they add another wide receiver with their third pick. Like, what the heck, man? Are they about to make some serious trades? Because
I don't know.
I don't know why you draft two receivers and you already have a crowded room. But then they get a couple edge guys that'll be able to get some play. It gives them good depth. I don't think, because they have Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary already. So they're just adding some depth to that defense. That they definitely is going to help them in that division. That's a tough division.
So if we're fantasy players, do you avoid the Green Bay wide receivers?
1,000,000%. I will not draft a Green Bay receiver because you never know who's going to go off that week, and it's not worth the chance. How many people went and got Reed quick because he had two.
I traded for Reed.
Yeah, Christian
on
Watkins.
His high.
Yes, and then
the guy who I traded him for sold him at his peak. And then I got everything else afterwards.
You know what that wide receiver room is equated to? It's crypto. It's low coin crypto like Doge, Shiba Inu. You don't know. Like, 1 minute that Doge is worth 80 cents, and the next minute it's worth a quarter for fantasy value, not playing. They're actually good. But I 100% stay away.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to the counterparts in the North there in the NFC, and that's the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota, man, I'll say it again, 15-2, 14-3, whatever their record was, and they were second in the NFC North.
Minnesota,
Sam Darnold had an absolutely Cinderella year. Now they're going to rely on J.J. McCarthy and, what he can bring to the future, continue to rely on Aaron Jones there in the backfield, who was productive for them last year. But they went out and they got Donovan Jackson, offensive guard from Ohio State. I do like that pick. I think he's a very solid guard. He'll definitely help out them in that category. And then after that, man, I mean, they got Ty Felton, they got a couple of defensive and linebacker guys. The guy Dawkins from Georgia. And then the last pick there, they got Gavin Bartholomew from Pittsburgh, which is an awesome last name, especially for Minnesota Vikings. So, but how do you think? I don't think that was there really any really big needs that were screaming for Minnesota. I don't think that there was. I think that they addressed it.
Yeah, no, they get Donovan Jackson. He's going to be a plug and play guy. They needed the offensive line. He's going to be a good guard for them. He was, Ohio State guy. Felton, I'm not the problem with Felton is he has good numbers at Maryland, but he was the only target. So he got a lot of balls thrown his way. So I feel like his numbers are a little inflated, but I don't know. I mean, they have a good receiving core. I mean, they got JJ Addison's there, Hawkinson, that tight end. So maybe it adds depth. Maybe he does some special teams. But I mean, as a third receiver, yeah, I guess it's a good pick. But yeah. They addressed. They only had 5 picks, so I mean, they had to make them hit. But their number one need was definitely O-line, and I think they did a good job with Donovan Jackson. I like the pick.
Yeah, I like it too. I definitely like it. The next 2 picks are New York Giants and Atlanta Falcons, who we have already addressed in our Volume 1 episode. So if you want to take or hear our takes on that, go ahead and check out that video from last Friday. But let's move on to the 27th pick, which was the
want to talk about
Ravens.
Atlanta and the edge
I don't want to talk
rushers
about Atlanta again. No, I don't want to.
You don't want to
I really
talk
don't
about
want
the
to.
improvement of that team.
I don't want to. No, I think I expressed my concerns enough with them last week. I don't like what they did with the edge there. So, but let's move on to Baltimore. Dude, Baltimore, man, had a really sneaky good draft. Like, they got Malachi Starks from Georgia, fantastic safety to already add to. It's like the Denver Broncos, right? They had secondary, but they were like, let's just continue to add more. And then somehow, some way, at pick 59, they got Mike Green. How he fell that far, I don't know, but they got him. This team continues to draft successfully, and that's why they are usually outside of the top 25 picks in the NFL draft, because they're just consistently in the divisional NFC championship or AFC championship game.
I don't know. I don't know what that draft room, war room, whatever they call it. They had to be going, who's still there? Like, so-and-so still there? Are you shitting me? I mean, I don't know if we say shitting or not, but I said shitting me. Yeah, man, they get Starks out of Georgia. Good safety, man. Even if the Dolphins would have picked him at 13, I would have been okay with that. Like you say, Mike Green, another good edge guy. He's the Marshall guy, but he used to be a wide receiver into an edge rusher. Which, I mean, who didn't see that coming? Emory Jones out of LSU, the offensive tackle, another good pick. He fits what they like to do there. I mean, all the way down to, and they drafted a kicker, which they need because Justin Tucker is now gone. But they even get Webster from Colorado, who was another good receiver there. Late in the draft in the 6th round, man, I don't see a bad pick on this team. I don't know how they had a great draft. It
reminded me a lot of a Philadelphia Eagles kind of draft. Like, how did they get this guy? Did they trade for him? Oh, no, he fell? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How is this possible? But I think that this draft, more than anything, so many people fell. So many people were like still available in the 2nd round, 3rd round, and you were like, man, how is that even possible? But it's just because of how deep this class was at so many different positions. So the Ravens, man, they took full advantage of that. That team is going to continue to be a nightmare. That defense is going to continue to be one of the best in the NFL. Well, let's move on to the Detroit Lions. I think that, if I'm not mistaken, we scratched our heads with the 1st round pick with Williams from Ohio State, the defensive tackle. But in hindsight, kind of taking a look at what happened last year, man, they got riddled with injuries all over the defensive side of the ball. And but out of their 7 picks, only 3 of them were defense. So the rest, were wide receivers, offensive guard, and wide receivers and offensive guard. And then they got an edge guy, safety, and defensive tackle. I still think that overall they had a good draft pick. I'm not going to question Dan Campbell and what they continued to do there in Detroit, but I thought that they would have been a little bit more defensive heavy just to get some depth.
Yeah, I mean, the Williams pick is a good pick. What they should have drafted was an on-site hospital to get these guys, man. I don't know. I've never seen a defense every week. People going down.
They had, and it was like, what was it, 13 or 14 defensive players on IR last year?
You talk
wild.
You talk about literally having to get the water boy to come in and play. My God, I felt so bad for them, and they still had a great year. They definitely needed the Tate Rutledge out of Georgia. Not a bad pick on there. I didn't think the middle of their draft was real good. The Miles Frazier out of LSU is not bad. The Isaac, the guy from Arkansas, Arkansas was a good football team, but they didn't have anything screaming at that pick. I don't think that. I think that their receiver room's good enough. Maybe he's going to be a special teamer. Yeah, they didn't have a bad draft. I mean, I think it could have been a little bit better. I would have just drafted all defense, and so I just would have got as much depth as possible.
Same
on that defense.
Same here. But again, not going to question what they're building there in Detroit. It is working for them. That franchise has completely turned around in a matter of 3 or 4 years. So I mean, shout out to Dan Campbell. Shout out to everything that they're doing.
How much coffee you think he drinks on draft day? We talking like equivalent of like 3 2-liters, something
probably.
Like yeah,
probably. When he chases like Mountain Dew with it or something crazy.
Oh my God!
So pop a couple of Zennies, like he's probably all hyped up, probably all jacked up.
He grinds the beans himself. He's just like,
yeah, he's just like, all right, just get my morning coffee. So I love Dan Campbell. I don't know how you can hate him. So, but let's move on to the Washington Commanders, the surprise team last year. Jane Daniel led them all the way to the NFC Championship game. Oh, man, what a buzzsaw they were there at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So they had a late pick. only had five draft picks. But overall, again, I think it's good. I love, though, I don't know if maybe it's just me, but I really, really do love the Trey Amos pick in the second round, the guy from Mississippi. I think that's a very solid pick. I think that guy's going to be a really good defensive back in the NFL. And look at the division that they're in, man. They got some serious weapons that they have to go up against twice a year, especially now in Dallas, right? I mean, you not only have CD, but now you have George Pickens, you have AJ Brown, you have Devontae Smith, right? So, and I mean Malik Neighbors, he's a headache with the Giants. So I love the Trey Amos pick. He was my favorite pick for the Commanders. But how do you like what the Commanders did?
No, I like the Amos pick. I was a fan of his at Mississippi, so I like it. It's a good pick for them. They need it.
Yeah.
For that secondary. I don't know how I feel about their first pick with Connery out of Oregon. I think what made him probably get drafted a little bit earlier was their game against Penn State. He played very well against Abdul Carter, and I think that having a good game against Carter kind of boosted him up a little bit, and then his combine was really good. But I'm not a huge fan of it. It's a need for them because they're going to lose Sharif to free agency, but I don't like the pick overall. I thought they did fine. Yeah, I think the Amos is their best pick for sure, though.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely love it. So I was clicking over here, man. I'm not gonna lie, I got an ad that blew up in my ear because I clicked on the webpage to try and get a little bit more information on something, and I didn't hear a single thing that you said there. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and agree with it because I trust you, Carlos.
Yes.
But let's go ahead and let's move on to the next pick here. I believe that it was the Buffalo Bills. Sorry, man, I completely lost everything that I just had. That ad completely threw me off. But it was the Buffalo Bills here. So they got the corner Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. I'm not mad at that pick at all. When you get to this part of the draft, right? You either have to reach a little bit. You have to be willing to reach a little bit. Because that maybe some of these guys who are probably second-round talent, if you're picking this late in the first round, unless if you made a trade or a deal with the team that has a higher pick, those guys aren't going to be there, because now you're going into the third round the next time you pick. So I think that you have to be smart in where you reach. And I think that Maxwell Harrison, probably second round pick, but you had to do that reach because of where you were picking. So I'm not mad at it at all. And I think that they did that throughout the draft, as you kind of look at who they drafted here. But again, are you really going to argue with the strategy of Buffalo or any of these teams here later in the draft? No, because they've found success. So I do like the Harrison picked up.
Yeah, no, I like it. He's got good ball skills, good corner, man, fast, twitchy guy. So I think and it's an area of need for them. So I don't think it's a bad pick at all. I think it's a good pick. Yeah. But like you said, because you're not going to get another pick for a while. So you really, it has to be a guy you want. And it's definitely a guy that they needed on there. So TJ Sanders is a good guy, good heavy hands, good against the rush. So that it's something that they could use up front. I mean, with Greg Rousseau to help them out. They really didn't need much linebacker help. The defense is pretty solid, but he should help solidify that front four for them. The pick that I love, because I this guy to me looks ridiculous, and I remember his tape when he was in high school, is Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. If you ever see the drill where they go under and then they slap the thing, it is the worst. It's terrible because his arms are too long for him. There's no power. He's literally just like, it's terrible. It's man, you got to look at it. It's absolutely terrible. But he did grow at his time at Arkansas. He was a highly recruited guy coming out of high school. But he has gotten better. I don't know. I don't like the pick just because the guy, this tape and the way he looks. But he's a big athletic guy.
You can't get past that tape.
I can't. No matter what. And they show in the combine him redoing that drill, and he does it very well. He has good technique and everything. We're just going to see how it translates into that Buffalo Bill. He's always been a South guy. Now you're throwing him in the cold. I don't know, but I kind of find him a little ridiculous. But
we'll definitely have to keep an eye on him this year. Something that the Bills did definitely address though is defense. Like the first 5 picks for this team was defense, and then they went tight end, and then they went back to defensive back, and then they finished off the draft with an offensive line and a wide receiver. So I mean, they definitely were like, okay, we're going to focus on this defensive side of things, because I think we're getting into as flashy and as nice as the offenses are, and having flashy offenses and high scoring and everything else like that. Time and time and time again, Carlos, defense wins championships.
It does, but at some point, when does Buffalo get off of this? Like, they're so predictable. You need wide receivers. And their wide receiving core.
Yeah, you do.
It's not real good. Like, but they flabbergast me. They can do whatever. It's Buffalo. They're going to win the games during the season because they play bad teams, and Josh Allen's athletic enough to beat those teams. And James Cook has turned into a really good running back. Their defense is solid, so they're going to beat the teams they're supposed to beat. But you're talking about beating these elite teams in the postseason, which they can't do. And they even get home field advantage, and they still can't do it because once you hit that late postseason, the other team has a good defense. And if you don't have any weapons on the outside, everybody can just key on your running back and your quarterback because there's no threat at wide receiver. And at some point, when are you going to address that? Like, you tried in free agency, it didn't work. You can't tell me that what they got there now is nobody on that team scares me. I mean, The only thing is Josh Allen and James Cook. That's it. But I still don't think that's enough. I think they need a weapon on that others, like on the outside. And honestly, that 2-headed tight end monster they're supposed to have hasn't done anything. They both, when one's hurt, the other one's healthy, and vice versa. So you never see Kincaid and Knox at the same time. And Kincaid hasn't, he was supposed to be like the next Kelsey, and it's not turning out that way. Like, they're so vanilla and just relying on Josh. If Josh Allen goes down, that team is a 0-win team. Zero. Because he creates so much for them. And at some point, Jesus, man, give this guy something. Like, or not. I'm okay not giving him anything.
Oh.
And please don't hate me, Buffalo fans, for that. I know the Miami is behind me, but I don't think Joshua Palmer is going to solve the needs of the wide receiver room and Khalil Shakur. So, I'm going to give it a few seconds here, wait for David to pop back in on us. Guess who's back?
Back again. Yeah. They try to sabotage me, Carlos. They just try and continue to sabotage me. So I don't know how much you got of what I was saying about the Buffalo Bills. That was the last thing that I was talking about. But they are very vanilla. We're going to continue to see what they do and how they are going to, address that offensive side of the ball. Because you're right, man. They need weapons for Josh Allen. And what's crazy is that last year we saw them do that trade with Kansas City, and they got Keon Coleman when they could have gotten Xavier Worthy. So it's like,
yeah, they just have a bunch of, he's okay. I mean, they got Curtis Samuel. Elijah Moore never pans out anywhere. He's fast as can be, never pans out. They go get Joshua Palmer. It really didn't do anything with the Chargers, and they had a good quarterback there, but their defense is stout. I give it that. Their offensive. They got Joey Bosa, Ed Oliver, Greg Rousseau. It's a stout defense that they got.
Definitely a stout defense. But let's go ahead and let's move on to someone who actually made a trade with the Chiefs this year, and that was the Philadelphia Eagles, to go ahead and get Jahad Campbell. How the heck does this team continue? The Philadelphia Eagles have got to be the best drafting team in the last 3 years, hands down. I don't know how they are doing it. I don't know how they continue to do it. They're not giving up the barn. They're continuing to allow guys to fall to them. And then when they want to move up, it's a very smooth move. And they get them. How?
I don't know how in the heck they get Jahad Campbell. This guy's probably the 12th to 14th best prospect coming out this year. He's that good.
Yes.
And they get him at 31. And they trade with the Chiefs, who could use a linebacker. Like, they don't have a hard draft strategy. We're gonna go look at two schools. Georgia #1, and if they got players left, we're just gonna draft a bulldog. That's a stud. If not, we'll just go to Alabama, who's right next door, and that's their best player on defense. We'll take him. It amazes me. I don't get it. But we even said before, this draft was so deep in the first round, it was going to be hard to make a bad pick. But for this guy to fall to make a bad pick, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Carlos, let's just go ahead and wrap this up before I lose internet again. I'm not too sure what exactly is going on here, but my internet just continues to want to be hit or miss. The Eagles, hats off to you. You continue to be the best drafting team in the NFL easily over the last 3 to 4 years. But let's move on to the Kansas City Chiefs, who I lost everything, Carlos. I lost all my notes. So, Carlos, can you go ahead and help and remind me on what they got? I know that they got Josh Simmons.
Yeah, that's good pick. Very
super
talented
good pick.
Offense. Yep. Yeah, good pick there. They get defensive pick out of Tennessee, Norman Lott, who's not a bad pick. They had a good draft overall. They get Jalen Royals out of Utah State. It's a good wide receiver. Utah State likes to throw the ball a lot, so got good hands. And Ashton Gillotti out of Louisville, who's a speedster on the edge that they definitely could use. But the Josh Simmons pick to get him last in the draft and possibly doesn't have the injury, could have been the #1 tackle coming out this year.
Yeah, they definitely took full advantage of him falling there in the first round. I remember now, I like the Gelati pick from Louisville. I think that he's going to help them on that defensive side of the ball because that's something that they were in need of. They have Chris Jones that can come up the middle, but they really needed some edge help, and I think that Gelati can provide that for them.
Yeah. They have an interesting pick. And Brashad Smith out of SMU, transfer from the Hurricanes, wide receiver at the Hurricanes, fast. Coach plays running back at SMU. You have a big wide receiver playing running back. I don't know how they're going to use him, but he's fast. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. Very fast guy. He can return punts, kicks for them. He did it. Miami did it very well. And SMU, he is going to be an issue coming out of the backfield to cover because he is a wide receiver.
Yeah.
SMU just put him at running back, but going to be I'm very curious to see how they use Brashard Smith.
You know, and he would fit. He's going to fit right into what Andy Reid tries to do there with that offense. He always tries to get home run hitters. Brashad Smith can definitely be that home run hitter. You know, and to get him there in the 7th round. I mean, he wasn't going to go, you know, day 1, day 2, right?
I mean,
but
he's a
good
4.3 guy too.
Yeah,
he's a fast dude, man.
No,
Very
he
fast.
is. Yeah, he definitely is. So, but I love that pick. But Carlos, before my internet quits on me one more time, we're gonna go ahead and sign off. If you like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We definitely appreciate you guys. Follow us on all of our social medias. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that good jazz. Go ahead and follow us on there. Next week, we will be starting our favorite series. It was our most successful series last year, so we're excited to go ahead and get into that this year. In our way too early predictions, I'm not sure which division we're going to start out with, but we will go ahead and you know, stay tuned because you will find out. So, but I'm excited for that. Until next Friday.